Sophie, thank you for taking the time today to speak to me and to all the people who are watching us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
So, since May of 2024, you have regularly been posting to Instagram under the handle Israel is real underscore 18. And your goal, which you state, is to quote, show the world that you are never too young to stand up for what you believe in. I'm curious, what inspired you to stand up for what you believe in? What was the spark?
I think I've always been quite an outspoken person. From a young age, I've never been the type to just, shy away. I've always spoken up. But I think after October 7th, especially in Australia, every Sunday we were seeing protests, and I'm sure similar around the world. And there are a lot of community advocates in the community. Um, in Australia, but there were no young people, and I felt like there was sort of a gap because a lot of the people, that were protesting at university campuses, obviously I know that's the same in America, but in Australia, they were all young people, like 19, 20-year olds. So I felt like they were all, young, but there was no one speaking up. I guess I like to say like I'm speaking up from the right side of history. There was no one speaking up for Israel and the Jewish community that was young, and I felt like there needed to be someone because we're the future generation that's going to be impacted by everything happening now. So I think it's important that we learn to be able to stand up and have those conversations, advocate for what we believe in.
Now, when you started doing this, was your initial audience other Jewish teens? Was your audience non-Jewish teens in Australia? Was it Australian civic leaders? Who are you trying to reach in creating these posts and then these videos on Instagram?
I think originally I didn't really have a specific, I mean, my whole I guess, mission was to get other teenagers to advocate for Israel and against anti-Semitism as well. So that was obviously my main goal. And when I started, majority of my following was from school, so a lot of teenage Jewish teenagers, um, and obviously like family following me. But I think also I just in Australia, I could see what was happening, and I think I just felt like something needed to be done. I just needed to speak up and just make a difference and sort of just raise awareness. Because I feel like for me, especially with Holocaust education and stuff, I think that the only way to combat anti-Semitism is through education. I'm sure you probably think the same, being a teacher. So I think just spreading awareness and educating people is really important.
No, I think it's absolutely critical. Now, where you are today, 18 months or so after you first started, has your view changed in terms of what your mission is, or are you doing today what you envisioned in May of 2024 when you first started that you'd be doing?
Very different. When I first started, it was right after October 7th, well, like a few months after. And I was posting a lot about what was happening in Israel, about the hostages. And my focus is still talking about the hostages and everything that's happening in Israel. But I don't think I realized and expected how much I would be talking about in Australia. Obviously, a lot has happened since then, the rise in anti-Semitism, everything with the government recognizing Palestine and everything I'll probably talk about later. But I don't think I realized how much I would be talking about that was actually in Australia. And that's very surprising to me. I didn't think, that I would be posting videos on social media. Originally, I just started writing stuff online, you know,
Right.
about Israel and everything. So I think I did not expect the levels of anti-Semitism in Australia to go up, that would be my primary thing that I'd be speaking about.
And in fact, it took you 7 months for you to feel comfortable to show your face to your followers. And then another 5 months before you first posted your full name. And so, how did you come to the decision to do each?
I think from the start, I really wanted to post videos, but obviously, like my parents, I'm 16, they were kind of a bit worried about it. So I sort of had to convince them. And once I convinced them, I did it straight away. With my full name, I always, I never, it wasn't, I always put my name out, that was Sophie. My parents didn't want me to put my last name. But then obviously, after I spoke at the rally, my last name was out anyway. So I couldn't really. you know.
I want you to talk about the rally because it was actually thanks to the rally that I first heard about you. And so this is in July of 2025. Did you come to a moment before the rally where you realized that you were having an impact and gaining serious attention for your efforts, or was it really the rally itself? Talk about what that rally was and how that sort of all came together that you were speaking in Melbourne.
So for like months, over a year, I'd been posting on my Instagram, and then for a few months before, like I'd been posting videos. And I didn't realize how much attention I was getting. In fact, I didn't really feel like I was getting much attention. Most of it was from people in the community, people I knew. And then this lady called Simone Wine, she started this grassroots organization called J United. And it's like, helping mobilize people to advocate against anti-Semitism in Australia. And she was helping organize this rally, Unite Against Terrorism. And she wanted a young person, and she reached out to me. And I'd spoken at a few small events like at my school before, but never this big. So I didn't really expect, you know, the extent to what it was. Um, it was a rally where there was different groups. So there was like Hindus, Iranians, Christians. There was so many non-Jews, but majority was Jewish, uniting against terrorism. As like in Australia, every Sunday we have radical protests every week, and it started getting so bad that they hold up pictures of terrorists and they yell chants, terrorist chants. So it was more just showing that like terrorism isn't just an issue overseas, that it's coming into our streets in Australia now. And when I spoke for like a week before, my parents were kind of nervous because everyone knows going into the city on Sundays in Melbourne is like really bad for Jewish people. Like I don't go to the city on Sundays. Like you like it's not unsafe. Like I'm sure you'll be fine, but like if you go into one of those rallies with an Israel flag, like you'll probably be attacked. Like these people are crazy. So my parents were a bit worried, but they decided to just let me go and see. And I spoke, and I genuinely like I'd never done something like that before. Like I love public speaking. I've always been on the debating team and stuff, but that was like incredible. And then after that, that's definitely when I started getting attention and people that in the community, non-Jews even. I had a lady reach out to me saying she showed my video to her non-Jewish daughter just to show that you're never too young to stand up for what you believe. And I thought that was very impactful. But definitely the rally was a turning point, and that was when people started to notice me. And then after that, I started getting a lot more opportunities, and my audience and my following has definitely expanded, which has been incredible. And like I don't think if I didn't do that rally, like I wouldn't be where I
No,
am
that's
today.
great. And what did you talk about at the rally?
I guess the main reason they wanted me to speak was to show what it's like being an Australian teenager, Australian Jewish teenager, post October 7th. And um, I spoke a lot about, what was happening in Israel, but also the primary focus was what's happening in Australia now and how bad it actually is. Like the protests every Sunday, literally the day before that, a shul was firebombed. Like I'm not over exaggerating, but like 2 meters from where I was speaking at the rally, like East Melbourne Synagogue. So that, like, I didn't, like, when I was writing my speech, obviously, I didn't expect that. And obviously, there was also a restaurant that was attacked, a Jewish restaurant in the city, like, not that far, walking distance from where I was speaking. So a lot of it was about the anti-Semitism in Australia. I spoke a little bit about the government and what they weren't doing, but I also, like, had to be careful because I didn't want to sound too like, no, I don't want to sound too like over the top, but I think you guys have to be careful, especially when it's being such a large audience. Um, but yeah, it was mostly about how terrorism is being reflected into Australian streets and around the world, and just trying to, I guess, empower other teams to stand up for Israel.
Fantastic. Anything else you want to share before I let you go?
Before I go, my message is that well, obviously, you're never too young to advocate. Advocacy has no age, and like obviously, we're old enough to be affected by this anti-Semitism. I always say, if you're old enough to be affected by it, you're old enough to change it. We're definitely old enough to be affected by the anti-Semitism. We're seeing everything online, so we're definitely old enough to make a difference. But I also want to say that obviously, advocating and posting videos of yourself on social media isn't for everyone. So anything you can do matters, whether obviously you post something on social media or you have a conversation with someone um you have different beliefs, or you educate yourself. As I said, education is very important and the only way to combat anti-Semitism. Anything you do matters. And if you do one little thing, it will make a difference. Whether, write a letter to RDF soldiers or anything, you're never too young to make a difference. So anything you do matters.